Alright guys, I'm going to make 2 videos for this worksheet just because, as you'll see here in a second, it's fixing to get kind of lengthy. So numbers 1 through 9 on the law of signs page, I know we've already kind of talked about some of them, but I'm going to go ahead and just redo all 9 of them. I am, however, going to scroll down because I obviously don't have a lot of work here, so I'm just going to work my work out on paper, and I'm going to assume that you have your paper in front of you. So for number 1, I will be doing the sine of 12. Nope, not the sine of 12. I can read. Sorry, let me move my paper so I can see it. Here we go. The sine of 74 over 12. And the sine of 39 over x. We did this one in class, so I'm kind of skimmed through this one. Of course, you're going to cross multiply and divide on this one. So I will be doing 12 times the sine of 39. And then dividing that answer by the sine of 74. And you get 7.9 whenever you round on that one. And then in order to find the y value, of course, we had to find that third angle, remember? So you would do 74 plus 39, and then subtract that from 180, and that gives us, would help if I knew how to use my calculator correctly. That would, of course, give us 67. So up here, of course, we know that this angle here is 67. So again, we need that so we can find the y value. Did I do that right? I did that right. 74, 39. Yes. 113. Okay. It's been a day, y'all. I can't subtract. So now that I know that's 67, again, I'm going to keep the one I know. I'm going to keep the sine 74 over 12. That's not going to go away. I need to use that again. It's just this time, since I'm looking for the y value, which is the other side, it's going to be the sine of 67 because it's across from the y value. And again, I'm cross multiplying and dividing on here. So 12 times the sine of 67. Again, it would be helpful if I use my calculator correctly. And I don't seem to know how to do that today. Let's do that again. That's what I get for being in a hurry. And then divide by the sine of 74. And you get 11.5. So the y value there is 11.5. Again, we did that one in class, not a big deal. And number 2 is very, 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 very similar to that. Pretty much the same-ish problem. If you look at number 2, they just changed the numbers, right? So I would have the sine of 81 degrees, and I can see there on my paper that that is indeed across from the 18. So that is my first ratio in that proportion. And it looks like the 31 is across from the x. So it's going to be the sine of 31 degrees over x. And again, with the cross multiplying and dividing. So 18 times the sine of 31. And then divide that by the sine of 81. Again, be mindful of how you put this in your calculator. You do get 9.4 for x on this one. And just like number 1, I need this other angle right here, right, in order to be able to find the y value. So I'm going to do 81 plus 31 and subtract that from 180. And I get 68 degrees this time. Gosh, it's so different. So we can see that's across from y. So that's what I'm going to be using there. Again, I'm going to keep the sine 81 over 18. All right, that's still true. I'm still going to use it. It's just now, since I'm finding the y value, I need to use that sine of 68 because it's across from the y value. So this time I'm going to do 18 times the sine of 68. And I'm going to divide that by the sine of 81. And I get 16.9. So y is 16.9. So 1 and 2, very, very similar. Now number 3, I am looking for an angle on this one. But I can see there on number 3 that I do have 115 and 24 are across from each other. So I'm going to start with the sine of 115 over 24, right? Because that's the pair that I do know. And I'm looking for angle x, so the sine of x, and I can see that the side across from x is 10. Okay, so that's going to be my first proportion. Now, of course, this one's going to be a little bit different. Now, I'm still going to cross multiply 10 times the sine of 115. And then I'm going to divide that by 24. Now, be careful, not the side of 24. Oh, dang it. My calculator's being wonky, sorry. Just a 24. So let me plug that back in, sorry. 115, and then divide by 24. There we go. So you get like 0.37 stuff, and we talked about how we know that since we're looking for the angle, we actually need to do the inverse trig function. So I'm going to use my calculator's answer function to help me out a little bit. Second sine of my answer, and you get right at 22. It is 22.2 if you wanted to do that. I do like to round my angles to the nearest degree. So that's what the value of x is. X is 22 degrees on that one. So since I now know that this is 22 degrees, I can use that to help me find this angle, right? Just like we did on 1 and 2, because I do need that in order to find the y value. So 115 plus 22 subtracted from 180 is 43 degrees. So this angle up here is 43 degrees. So now I can do the y value just like we did the y value on the last two. Again, I'm going to keep the sine 115 over 24 because that's the one that I do absolutely know. And the angle was the sine of 43. Of course, I'm looking for my y value again this time. 24 times the sine of 43 divided by the sine of 115. And you get 18.1. So y is approximately 18.1. Now remember what I said. Now I do not remember. I gave you the textbook answers this morning. I don't remember what they said, honestly. So if this is rounded differently, just be mindful it's because we rounded differently. So, all right, now number 4. I'm going to come up here to the picture for a quick second. Number 4, notice how I don't have an angle side pair immediately. But I can find this angle right here, right? Like we have done now. This will be the 4th time on this piece of paper alone. It's 72. Like you get 72 degrees for this angle. Now I have a side angle pair, right? I know these two go together, so 15, 72 go together, and then I can use that to find x and y. Okay, so just want to point out you have to do that first. Because 33 over x, or the sine of 33 over x, and the sine of 75 over y, you can't put both of those in the same equation, because then I would have two unknowns in one equation, and that's absolutely not helpful at all in any way, shape, or form. All right, so for number 4, again, I'm going to have the sine of 72 over 15. That's the two that I do know. And then I'm just going to find x first, just because there's really not a good reason. It's in alphabetical order, so why not? 33 is across from x, so the sine of 33 over x, and 15 times the sine of 33. You'll notice these are very repetitive once you get to a point, which is nice. That does make them easy. And a little bit of practice never hurts. I got 8.6 for this one. And then to find y, I'm going to do the same thing using the sine of 72 over 15. This time y is across from 75, so it would be the sine of 75 over y. Again, 15 times the sine of 75 divided by the sine of 72, and you get 15.2 on this one. 15.2. So you did have to do that on that one. Number 5. Number 5 is another one that's very similar to 1 and 2. Oh no, my iPad is freezing. Don't know what's up. Okay, sorry about that. It's been being weird on me today. All right, so for number 5, for number 5, I can see the 8 and the 48 are across from each other. So the sine of 48 over 8, right? Very straightforward. This is an easy one. So if I wanted to find, well, they give me 92 across from y, so I'm going to go ahead and find y first. It really doesn't matter which one you find first. So sine 92 over y. Again, multiplying 8 times sine of 92 I'm going to divide that answer by the sine of 48, and I get 10.8. So y is 10.8. And just like happened on numbers 1 and 2, I am going to have to find that third angle. Oops, wrong one, sorry. So 92 plus 48, and then subtracted from 180 is going to give me 40 degrees. So this angle is 40 degrees, which I do need to find side x. So, again, keeping the sine 48 over 8. So I know that's true. This time I'm going to need to have the sine of 40. And again, that's across from what, x, right? Yes. So 8 times the sine of 40 divided by the sine of 48. And, oh, gosh darn it, my calculator's being really weird today. 8 times. It'd be helpful if I used the correct operation. Sometimes I'm being weird. The sine of 40, here we go, divided by the sine of 48 is 6.9. So x is approximately 6.9. That's number 5. Number 6, looking for another side. Again, I can see right off the bat that I have 10 and 41 go across from each other. What time is it? Okay. So I'm going to have the sine of 41 over 10. So that's going to be my first fraction. I see that the 87 is across from x. So the sine of 87 over x. And guess what? Cross multiply and divide. 10 times the sine of 87 divided by the sine of 41. I get 15.2 for that one. And just like the other couple of times, I do have to find that other angle. I'm not going to scroll back up because it is becoming very repetitive, as you've seen. So that other angle is 52 degrees, the one that's across from y. So again, I'm going to be using the sine of 41 over 10. And again, that third angle that I just figured out, because 41 and 87 are the two given angles, which would make the third angle sine of 52. So I'm going to have the sine of 52, and that is across from y. And guess what? 10 times the sine of 52. Going to divide that answer by the sine of 41, and you get 12. It is 12.0, so if you want to write 12.0, that would be cool. And if you don't want to write 12.0 and just 12, that's cool too. So that's number 6. Number 7. These are very repetitive. Excuse me. So on number 7, I can see that 80 and 13 are across from each other. So I'm going to have the sine of 80 over 13. Right? Okay, so it looks like they give me the 40 across from the x, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. So the sine of 40 over x. And 13 times the sine of 40. I'm going to divide that by the sine of 80. And I get 8.5. So x is 8.5. And has happened like 5 other times. I need to find that missing angle. So adding 80 and 40, of course, that's going to give me the other angle is 60. Still going to use that sine 80 over 13. The angle across from y, again, is 60, so it's going to be the sine of 60 over y. And cross multiplying and dividing. So 13 times the sine of 60. Now this one's probably would help if I use my calculator right. It's going to give you one of those like square root things. Not a big deal, right? Just keep going. You're going to divide that answer by the sine of 80. And you should get a decimal approximation of about 11.4. You know, when in doubt, feel free to go ahead and convert that to a decimal. 11.4. All right, number 8. Now, number 8, we are looking for an angle, kind of like what happened up in number 3. I do see that the 20 and the 120 are across from each other. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. The sine of 120 over 20. Those two go together. And I'm looking for angle x, which is across from the 16. So I'm going to do the sine of x over 16. And just like on number 3, whenever I cross multiply on this one, I need to be careful. So 16 times the sine of 120, which again is going to give you a weird square root, but not a big deal. Go ahead and divide that by 20, and you should get like 0.69 stuff if you convert that to a decimal. And I'm going to do the inverse again, right? We're looking for angle x, so I need to do the inverse sign and not the regular sign of that lovely decimal answer that I just got. So that's what I'm going to tell my calculator to do. And you get 44. It's 43.8. And again, my habit, which is not a bad habit, by the way, is to round to the nearest whole number for angles. So I'm going to say 44 degrees. Now, whenever I'm looking up here, let me scroll all the way back up somewhere. So what I just figured out was that this was 44 degrees, right? So I need this angle up here in order to find y. So just like we did all of the other times, 120 plus 44 subtracted from 180. If you were in my second period class, we did this one this morning, and we learned that Miss Wyndham does not know how to subtract. That was 16. But it is 16 degrees, so 16 is across from the y. So going all the way back down. Again, I'm going to keep the sine 120 over 20. And this time I'm going to have the sine of 16 over y. And just going to finish working that out. 20 times the sine of 16 divided by the sine of 120. And you get 6.4. So y, the side y is approximately 6.4. And then the last one is just another one like 1, 2, 5, 7. So number 9 is the last one. Let's see if I can squeeze this one in before the bell rings. Here we go. 30 and 130 are across from each other. So the sine of 130 over 30. And then 12 is across from x. So it's going to be the sine of 12 over x. And then again, going to cross multiply. So 30 times the sine of 12. And then I'm going to divide that by the sine of 130. And that does give me 8.1. So that's the x value. And like has happened all of the other times, I do need that other angle. So 130 plus 12 subtracted from 180 is going to give me 38. So that other angle that's across from y is 38 degrees. So sine of 130 over 30 is going to give me the sine of 38, and then that's across from y again. And so I get 30 times the sine of 38 divided by the sine of 130, and the y value is about 24.1. And that was the law of sines side.